Captain Logan.
Hello everyone, I'm Eric.
And it's time to do another review of a brand new DC direct-to-video movie. Today, Eric, we're going to be talking about Justice League Doom.
Justice League Doom?
Yeah, man.
I saw it.
I saw it too.
I saw it twice.
I saw it once, because I watched it on an Amazon rental, and you only get those for 48 hours, and I only had time to watch it once.
I was stupid, and I just purchased it right off the shelf. I was like, oh, I don't see it in the red box. I'm supposed to do this review. I'm just gonna buy this.
Oh, man.
And apparently I should have bought the special edition for $5 more because...
what was on the special edition? I didn't even check.
Apparently there was a documentary about the life of, crap, what's his name?
McDuffie.
Dwayne McDuffie.
Dwayne McDuffie. Oh, man, really?
Yeah, and apparently it's like a no holds bar, like real documentary. It's not a fluff piece.
Oh, cool. Man, I would spend $5 on that.
Yeah, me too. But I didn't, so instead the only thing I got was a little thing on Superman vs. the Elite.
Well, I'll buy it eventually. I just didn't get a chance to get out of my house that day, so I just stayed home and bought it online.
Yeah. Well, I bought it, and then I think like the next day I was like, I just
gave it away to someone because you absolutely hated it.
I should have given it away and asked someone for money for it because the day after I bought it, Game of Thrones came out and Transformers Season 1 for Transformers Prime. And I'm like, I spent the money on Justice League Doom. I could have had these two quality products that have much more in them. Justice League Doom is an 80-minute movie. I could have had Transformers for like, I don't know, whatever 24 episodes is.
Well, we're probably already making people think that we absolutely hated it. I didn't. I thought it was fun.
Well, I told you before, I watched the movie twice. The first time I watched it, I had a very different reaction from the second time I watched it. The first time I watched it, I really, really liked it. It was everything I've wanted the movies to be. And it's something I've had a problem with over at Marvel more than I have at the DC animated movies. Is that they keep doing these, well, we're going to give you this with a twist. I'm like, but you've never given me the standard. You can't do the standard with a twist if you've never given me the standard.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And that's...
Because you're assuming that everybody that watches this also has read every comic ever
yeah,
written.
that's one of my biggest problems with everything they've done with the Avengers. Was that they kept doing these Avengers movies with a twist, and I'm like, but I never got the Avengers. Now I have that with the TV show now. But, they're like, well, we're going to do next Avengers. I'm like, why don't you just do the Avengers? You gave me two Avengers movies where they don't fight a single Avengers villain. I just want to see the Avengers hitting Kang.
Yeah.
And that's what this was. This was the Justice League fighting their villains. And I loved it. I was like, this is so much fun. It's probably my second favorite DC movie next to, Under the Red Hood. And then I watched it with a friend of mine. Actually, I watched it with a couple of friends. And my friend goes, what's the neutralized version of any of Batman's plans? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, he just shot Superman with a kryptonite bullet. How do you neutralize that? Because Batman kept saying, well, he took my plans and he changed them. And I started thinking about it, and none of the plans have a neutralized version. No,
none of them.
Except for Green Lantern,
which is just a neutralized version. That's the thing, is that's the one that's not a kill him plan.
Yeah, and that one was weird. Because...
Yeah. That one's really weird.
All the villains act surprised when their heroes show up and they're not dead, but with the exception of maybe Mirror Master, all of them should have known they weren't dead. Star Sapphire shouldn't have been surprised at all. Bane just left Batman in a coffin. Did he really think he couldn't get out of that? I mean, he's Batman. I mean, this is the guy that Bane had to, unleash all of Arkham on before he could break him.
And why would the only endgame with Cheetah's plan be Wonder Woman must die?
Yeah, well, there is no way to neutralize that plan. Because even if Batman was like, well, the way my plan worked, I was just hoping you'd get exhausted. It's still Batman having her fight citizens.
Yeah, fighting whoever's around because she thinks they look like Cheetah.
Or whoever Batman's going to make them look like, but...
Yeah, exactly. What bugged me about the Green Lantern one was that Batman's whole explanation to the Justice League for why he came up with all these plans was in case something ever happened where they either got mind controlled or they went evil. Those were the two things he said.
Yeah, and that doesn't work for Green Lantern.
And it doesn't work with a lot of them, where what the plan ends up being is all about who they are and what decisions they make in most scenarios. And it's like, well, if the person suddenly decides I'm going to act totally against my type, and that's the reason that you have to neutralize them, then how can you predict what they're going to do? Like the whole point is, if you become predictable, or if you become unpredictable, I have to take you out. None of these make any sense for that.
If Martian Manhunter goes crazy and starts attacking the city, at what point are they going to is Batman going to be able to get Martian Manhunter to sit down and drink a drink so that he can light him on fire?
In comic continuity, Batman always has a piece of kryptonite or a bunch of kryptonite,
which they gave him at the end of the movie.
Which he gets at the end of the movie, in case, I guess, spoiler alert, in case Superman were to ever go rogue or ever decide, hey, I don't want to save the world anymore. Now I want to take it over, because of course Batman's whole thing with Superman was always you have way too much power, and everyone thinks that you're always going to use it right, but we can't make that assumption. So it's really a problem for me that his whole plan would be, I can take Superman out because he'll be vulnerable to, there's a guy who's going to jump off a roof and I have to save him. I have to talk him down. That doesn't work if Superman suddenly goes rogue, right?
All the plans were like that.
I'm going to go kill everyone. If he became, they're all like that, but if he became like the clone version of Superman from the end of Superman Doomsday, that wouldn't have worked.
Same thing with the Flash. Because the whole big thing was you can't vibrate through this bomb because it'll explode and it will kill all the passengers. If he's evil, why does he care?
Yeah.
None of the plans made really any sense for if they went evil, and there didn't seem to be a neutralized version. And the thing I thought of even more, when I thought about this movie more, none of the plans seem that smart. And I don't just mean that in like they're not clever.
Except for the Flash one, I thought that was pretty.
Okay, but this what I really mean by that is none of the plans.
That one's pretty foolproof, though. If you can assume that Flash is going to be Flash, right? That one's foolproof.
That's a great plan. The problem with all of the plans that I found is they're like, how could you do this when they're talking to Batman? They all seem pretty generic and obvious. Like, none of them seemed like something that Batman had to come up with. Like, oh, only you could come up with this because you know our weaknesses.
Well, and that's part of the difficulty with this plot, right, is that you're really setting yourself up for failure if they're not all super brilliant, because you're
super personal. Like, that's the thing is, Star Sapphires doesn't work going through them, Star Sapphires doesn't seem like something that Batman has to come up with, because Star Sapphire was hurt by him, and so, like that seems like something she would come up with on her own.
That's a really good point. That's a character motivation plan.
Yeah. Superman's, he's already, you can't even say like in this world where everybody doesn't know about kryptonite, because Metallo runs on kryptonite. So, and it's a big chunk, like how hard is it for him to think like, well, what if I just take it off and that didn't seem like none of the plans seemed like something where like it would be like, holy crap, I can't believe Batman, they just seemed like things anybody could come up with.
And then it makes Vandal Savage look kind of like an idiot too, because he
couldn't come up with them on his own.
Well, no, because he thinks they'll work. I mean, like he makes this assumption, hey, I got these plans and I know they're going to work, and it's like these were better than anything any of us could come up with. How old is this guy? I mean, like he's older than pretty much humanity, and he goes, these are the only plans that will work. I didn't buy. And again,
Superman plan seemed pretty foolproof.
The Superman plan.
Yeah, shoot him with a kryptonite bullet. How many times has people said that?
Isn't that the obvious thing? Like you needed.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying.
You needed Batman to come up with that? Yeah, exactly.
Thank God it wasn't a shotgun, because you wouldn't have saved him in time.
Again, the problem with that plan is that the clever part is hey, it's a jumper and Superman's got to talk him down. But again, if he's mind controlled or something, that's not going to matter.
Or if he's just evil, why does he care?
Yeah.
Yeah, none of the plans really made sense.
And that's really the only huge problem I have with it, because while I was watching it, I wasn't thinking about that.
No, and I didn't think about it until somebody pointed it out to me. It's just that once you realize it destroys the movie.
It kind of falls apart, yeah. And I gotta be honest with you. I know Manos is a huge fan of Tower of Babel, and I'd be really interested to see what he thinks about this movie. I haven't read very much. I've read bits and pieces of it, and it's been a long time, so I don't remember what the plan. I don't know what the plans are in Tower of Babel, and if they're better.
So
yeah, I just don't remember, and I wish I'd taken the time to get it and look at it before we did this review, but I don't own it, and I didn't go out and find it.
Yeah, same here.
I would be really surprised if these were the exact plans. And in fact, they can't be the exact plans because two of the characters are different. Because they took out Aquaman and they took out, who else?
I don't think the original story had the Legion of Doom. It's been, like I said, it's been a while, but I think it was just Ra's al Ghul doing stuff.
Well, yeah, but the Batman plans were there. Like, the story was about...
No. I know that, but I don't think they had the villains. Like, I don't think it was like Bane, and I know it wasn't Bane.
They didn't... No. And I remember that there was a little pseudo-documentary on the last disc of the stuff where they were talking about why they picked the characters they picked. So, yeah, they weren't borrowed from that. I thought it had a few different villains in it, though. I thought Lex was in it, but I could be wrong.
But
Again, it's been so long. I don't remember. But I'm just saying that the whole thing of, Batman has these plans, that was the story, but I don't know what his plans were in that.
That would have been great if that was the story here. Because it wasn't. We just kind of get like a little 5-minute wrap up at the end of the movie where it's like, hey.
That's the problem is that it doesn't explore it.
No, not at all.
Yeah, it's simply, this is the premise, and then we're going to use it to have all of these neat fights. And then at the end, they kind of deal with it, but it's pretty much more just what is the status quo for the end of this movie going to be. It's not really exploring the character difficulties and, what this would do to these people and, all the interesting stuff. Honestly, this is one of those movies where I would have appreciated a whole lot more talking and a whole lot less fighting.
I would appreciate if we cut the first 15 minutes with the fight with the Royal Flush Gang, which I thought was a great scene.
It's a great fight, but we got an 80-minute movie. It's another one of those things where we're doing an arc that we've got to cut a lot out of, and that we're changing quite a bit. We're wasting time with stuff like that. That fight could have been cut down to 5 minutes, I think, or less.
You know what would have been great if they just removed that altogether and gave some backstory? Because this is something I realized when I was thinking about it is, if you don't know who Star Sapphire is, you have no idea what her beef with Green Lantern is. If you don't know who Bane is, when he's talking about, the first time I broke the man, the first time I broke the bat, this time I break the man, you don't know what he's talking about. Like, those two in particular, I felt like were just sitting there without any kind of explanation, and they referenced previous stories that if you were coming in blind, you wouldn't know what they were. And we have this 15 minutes just sitting here doing nothing.
Okay, so I'm just looking some stuff up. In the original story, it was Aquaman and Plastic Man, and that they took out, and with Martian Manhunter, that's pretty much the same thing. But with some of the others, they changed stuff. Like apparently they did a lot of stuff with nanites, and so with Wonder Woman, she had a nanite in her ear that traps her in a virtual reality, where she's fighting an opponent that's her equal in every way, and she's if she surrenders under any circumstance, her heart fails.
Wow, that makes
a lot more sense.
A lot more sense.
It's a lot better of a plan. Like, why did they change that? I don't know why that couldn't have been there.
And you can literally have that opponent be Cheetah, so Cheetah can still scratch her and put the thing in.
It's a similar thing, but it's not nearly as interesting or plausible. They did, and then with Superman, it was red kryptonite.
Red kryptonite? Like they shot him with it, or it was just red kryptonite?
It says Superman's skin becomes transparent. Really? After exposure to red kryptonite, an artificial creation of Batman's made by exposing a green kryptonite sample to radiation developed in the event of him simply wanting to stop Superman for a while rather than actually killing him. As Superman is powered by solar energy, his skin's transparency causes a sensory overload by his internal organs. Direct exposure to sunlight without his skin as a proper solar filter to the extent that he can hear conversations on Earth while he himself is located on the moon.
That is genius.
Yeah. I don't know why they didn't use those.
I don't know.
They really dumbed some of these down.
And I really, really hate to say this, because I really like some of the guy's work, but this is a terrible swan song for Dwayne McDuffie.
For Dwayne McDuffie. Well, but the dialogue's really good.
Oh, that's the best part of it. There were some fantastic lines. The best bit in the entire movie is when there's a giant solar flare coming at Earth, and Superman goes, well, what if I just move the Earth out of the way? And Batman just goes, if I had a week, I couldn't explain to you all the reasons that won't work.
That won't work. What a great line. You see, we got to be really careful because you have no idea how much of the actual plot was Dwayne McDuffie's. You know, you'll a lot of the time these things are put together by a whole team, and then the script is credited to whoever actually wrote the thing. But who knows how much of the stuff that's not nearly as good as the original was his fault.
Well, something that I actually, before we did this, I listened to another review, and they pointed out that Mark Waid, who wrote Tower of Babel, is not credited as for story with Justice League Doom.
Yeah, and it's very loosely connected. I mean, this is one of those where it's not really an adaptation.
Well, this is something that bothers me, because when they launched the DC line, they were like, we're adapting comic book storylines straight to into these movies, and we've gotten two, because All Star Superman and New Frontier. Everything else.
Well, and Year One.
Oh, and Year One. I forgot about Year One. But everything else has been these weird pastiches where it's like, well, it's kind of the death of Superman and all of that stuff. It's kind of, Emerald Dawn for
Red Hood. Red Hood was really similar, but actually better. So I don't think you can count that.
Yeah, Red Hood was the best example of where they just took the story and they did it, and they slimmed it down. They cut all the fat out. But we get all these other stories that are just
parts to actually be something better. It's an anomaly with these.
Yeah, Crisis on Two Earths was based on I think it's Earth 2. But not at all really. It's just those characters. The Wonder Woman movie is kind of Gods and Mortals, but like we've gotten a lot of these like pastiche movies where it's like, well, it's a little bit of this and it's a little bit of this and it's a little bit of this. I'm like, what happened to we're just going to straight up adapt these? Yeah. And Justice League Doom is just incredibly guilty of that, where they're like, but they said in the documentary on the Year One DVD where they're like, well, it's kind of it's the idea of Tower of Babel, it's not the story Tower of Babel.
Yeah, which is okay. I'm not complaining that it's not direct, word for word, especially because you and I don't even know it.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is just reading the wiki on it, we can tell it was more interesting, and that's unfortunate. It's like it doesn't have to be a direct adaptation, especially because a lot of these things, they don't have enough time to do a real, honest to God, direct adaptation. So it's just like, why didn't you keep the things that you could have kept with the format that were obviously more interesting? It's like, okay, we're not going to have the same villains, but why can't we have the same plans? I don't understand that, at all. Unless it's just like, well, we didn't figure out how the heck Vandal Savage was going to get his hand on nanites, but like.
Well, which actually would have made perfect sense because he's thousands of years old, but
yeah.
And I'm perfectly fine with them.
Oh, and plus, he's super crazy rich. Isn't he paying all of them like $20 million a piece?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, he could get his hands on freaking nanites.
But he can get his hands on kryptonite, which is apparently really rare. Although kryptonite's kind of like adamantium. It's only as rare as the writer needs it to be.
Yeah. It's really rare, except that the people who have the only chunks that there are the people who are really important to this particular story.
Tony Stark, the richest guy in Marvel, can't afford to make a suit of Iron Man armor out of adamantium because it's so rare, but anyone that wants to fight Wolverine can get some and just put it in their body.
Yes.
And
kryptonite is so extremely rare, but Metallo runs on it and Conduit is made of it.
Well, the Metallo running on it was okay when John Byrne did it, because it was literally the only piece. We knew that was only, but whatever. Anyways, I don't want to get into semantics, but I actually like the use of Vandal Savage. I like that he's nobody's villain. Because I feel like if it had been Ra's al Ghul at the end of the day, this would have felt more like a Batman movie.
Plus we had, that's a good point, and we had Ra's al Ghul too recently with Red Hood, and I think that they were probably thinking that, where it's like, we don't want Ra's in everything. They've had that problem with Lex, where I think they've been like, we've used Lex over and over again. We should probably stop using him all the time.
Yeah, and I like that. I liked the choice to not make the Legion of Doom the A-listers. I liked that it wasn't Sinestro, Lex, maybe Brainiac, the Joker,
Yeah.
I don't know who the main Flash villain would be qualified as, but it wasn't Gorilla Grodd.
No, and I thought Mirror Master was fine. I liked pretty much everybody. I know you had some problems with Bane, but I liked his voice and his design a lot. I thought he looked great.
I have a problem with Bane's design.
Really?
Yes.
Are you just really picky on Bane?
No. Okay, first of all, I don't like that they constantly give Bane a mouth. I think his costume looks awesome in the comics. I don't know why they feel this incessant need to constantly give him a mouth. This is the only time I thought it ever worked. Because they played on that, oh god, I'm gonna sound racist. I want to say Mexican, but I think I'm wrong. Whatever ethnicity he is, they played on that, like, they made it look more like a skull, and it worked. My problem is, his shirt looks like something I'd expect, like, a slutty super villainess to wear. Like, it's completely open, like, for the midriff and the chest, and then there's just, like, one line across.
You didn't even pick up on that, okay.
It looks like something like Evil Power Girl would wear. Like, it just looked kind of silly. I don't know why we couldn't just have...
Talking about Bane and Batman, isn't it weird that the best plan out of all of them isn't even Batman's plan?
It's not the best plan. He just sucker punches him.
Well, no, I just mean the whole. I just mean it's the best plan in that it's the most personal plan. The whole let's use Batman's parents against him by digging him up. I thought that was really cool.
I thought that was really cool too, but I don't understand how it's like what it got Bruce Wayne there without any of his bat gear. But
that was about it. Yeah, it distracted him. But aren't there about 500 other ways you could distract the person to walk out of his house? Yeah.
Just at like a Wayne press conference, just decking Bruce Wayne and just hitting him.
Good point.
And just picking him up and hitting him some more. It was a nice shock factor for the audience. On a logical level, he just sucker punched Batman.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean that the plan was great in that, how exactly it was executed. I just mean the idea of he digs his parents up and then he buries him with them. I forget everything in between. I just think that overall it's kind of a neat idea.
No, it's a really neat idea. And I was watching the movie and I was like, holy crap, I can't think of that ever really happening. I liked Bane for the most part. I liked his voice. I just thought his plan none of their plans made sense. And I didn't feel like it was something that Bane couldn't have come up with on his own. I mean, this is the guy who unleashed all of the inmates of Arkham and then just waited in the Batcave for Bruce Wayne to come back.
That's a great point, too, yeah. Bane, the thing that people forget sometimes is that Bane is a planner in his own... Bane is a planner in his own right.
I feel Bane just started dating someone like, Baner.
Yeah, you have to forgive me. It's very late and I'm fading. With regards to Bane, one of the things I liked about him was that unlike a lot of other screen places I've seen him, they actually called the Nightfall, which is really unusual. He actually mentions that he once broke Batman and now he's back. You don't get that a lot with screen Bane. It's like they kind of brushed that under the rug because it's a different continuity. But I like that this had Nightfall built into it.
Well, even like the animated series, they just kind of didn't really do it.
Right.
But I felt like that was almost a hindrance, because as much as I liked it, I don't know if anybody, if I sat down with, my mom to watch it, or just somebody who doesn't regularly read comics, I feel like they wouldn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, but it was a throwaway line. It wasn't that important. I thought it was kind of just there for us, and I appreciate it on that level.
Maybe.
It wasn't important to the story. It was just I broke you and now I'm back, and that's all you needed. I don't think that's important for the audience. I mean, for like an audience that doesn't know it already, I think it was just kind of there for those of us that do.
What did you think of the voice actors?
It was one of those things where I wasn't thinking about it that much because they were almost all from the original Justice League show except for Nathan Fillion. So I kind of liked that they were the voices that I'm used to for two reasons. A, because I wasn't thinking about it because I'm just used to those voices, but also because this is the first time they've all been back together, and I thought this was kind of the right movie for it because they seemed like pretty much the same characters. So those voices worked really well, even though it's obviously not the same continuity, but I thought they all worked really well for that. The only thing I didn't like was I don't like Superman's character design because I don't think that Daly fits that at all.
See,
I think
really
he
like
just
his
sounds
design. You mentioned
really. He sounds too old to me. He looks like a 23-year-old Superman, and Daly was always voicing a 35-year-old Superman.
Yeah, I don't know. I liked it. He
looks like a
looked
baby.
like Superman to me.
Really? Huh.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't know.
I just didn't think it worked. I didn't like that design at all. I was fine with everybody else, but I think that
the
it's
short hair and the spit curl, and his blue wasn't like electric blue like in Crisis on Two Earths, where my eyes hurt by the blue.
It was just the shape of his head. I don't know. I'm quibbling now, obviously, but yeah, it's not a big deal at all. That was the only thing I didn't really like. I thought that character design was kind of cool.
I was surprised when the credits started going because I knew the Justice League came back. But I was surprised like when I started seeing like certain names like Alexis Denisof. I was like, I didn't know he was in this.
Who was he in that, by the way?
He was Mirror Master.
Oh, was he? Okay. I saw his name and went, oh, cool, and then I didn't think about it after that. Phil Morris is one of my favorite actors, and he did Vandal Savage, and I find that anytime I hear Phil Morris voice somebody, I always like that character.
Who else has he done? Because his voice felt really familiar to me.
Phil Morris was Martian Manhunter in Smallville.
Oh, okay, that's why his voice.
It's been a lot of Star Trek. Now he's done a lot of voices. He did a lot of voices in the Justice League show, and I can't tell you exactly who he was. I don't remember because it's been a while. But yeah, most people know him from Smallville.
Well, and I was really excited by Paul Blackthorne just because I like the Dresden Files TV series, and I like Paul Blackthorne. So I was kind of excited by the fact that he was in there, and he's Metallo. And Metallo gets like 2 lines.
Oh, and Cheetah was the chick from Farscape.
I have been told this.
That was cool.
But I never saw Farscape, so
that was such a great voice for her.
It was a great voice.
Loved it. Sorry, I'm just looking up some Phil Morris here, trying to get some Justice League voices because I just don't remember anymore. It's been a long time.
Right.
I always thought he was Martian Manhunter in that show too for some reason when I was a long time ago, but he's not. I don't know why I always thought that.
Anyway. I really like the everything.
Oh, that's why he was Vandal Savage in that show too.
Oh, okay.
Voiced him like a bunch of times.
But
interesting that they brought back the same even the same voice for a villain in that movie. That's kind of neat.
Yeah. And I think the Bane might have been the same guy who was in the Batman animated series, but I'm not positive on that.
I'm not positive on that either.
I want to say that this is a movie where if you just turn your brain off, it's really, really fun.
It is fun. I do appreciate that at the point toward the end. I gotta say this real quick because I forgot about this. When about 20 minutes toward the end, it looks like it's about to end way quicker than it's going to.
We talked about that. I had the exact same reaction when they bust in to fight the supervillains. I was like, really? That's just how we're gonna end it? Is they punk the superheroes? Now we're just gonna turn around and hit them? And then it kept going, and I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, it definitely lasts longer than you would expect, and that final fight goes on for a while, and it's cool because it's in multiple locations. And although we had some issues with Superman at the sun.
Yeah, he flies to the sun with the missile, which means the missile is traveling at least the speed of light, which is fine. It takes 8 minutes for the speed of light to get to the sun. Superman flies from the sun with a solar flare that presumably moves at the speed of light, chasing after him. Superman flies back and says, we have 8.5 minutes before that solar flare hits. Superman is flying faster than the speed of light, which is fine for, say, All-Star Superman, where he's souped up, or if you want to do a Superman story like that, that's fine. But if Superman can fly faster than the speed of light, Superman can react fast enough to not get shot by a kryptonite bullet.
Yeah, and there should be an effect there where we can tell that he's moving super fast.
Yeah, he just
because it looked like he was just flying. It was clear. I guess the bottom line is it was clear that they weren't thinking about it.
Well, but he says we have 8.5 minutes, which is almost scientifically accurate.
Yeah, but it's so weird that he just shows up there. It's like, wow, you should be able to do anything ever at any speed you want. If you can do that.
Yeah.
You know, with Star Trek, you're not supposed to warp within the solar system. Just throwing that out there.
Isn't that because it causes time travel?
or it can like rip a hole in the space-time continuum and mess things up.
That's not good.
But I just think it's really funny because if it takes 8 minutes for light to get, the speed of light to get to Earth, Superman's going at like warp a lot.
Okay. You want a scene where Batman's like, Superman, warp 9, and Superman's like on it. He just flies away really fast.
Or you find out that Superman's like a giant Star Trek fan, and Batman says, Superman, go warp 10, and he says, now you know that according to Voyager, that puts me at every point in the universe at the same time, right? And Batman says, no, just according to that really crappy episode that even Brandon Braga wishes was not canon. Anyway.
But no, I really, really feel like the movie should have ended 30 seconds earlier. I feel like
30 seconds. Eric didn't like the closing credits.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Because the movie doesn't deal with the Batman thing until the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then Batman gets up and they're like, do you want to defend yourself? And he goes, if I have to defend myself, then I don't want to be in the Justice League. And he walks away. That's where it should have cut to credits. Because that's a much more powerful ending, and it at least is kind of making some kind of statement about this fictional, standpoint that nobody really has an opinion on.
You're right, yeah.
Keep it going so that Superman comes in. First of all, why is Batman still on the satellite? Second of all, Superman comes up and he's like, what's your contingency plan? And he's like, well, the Justice League. And I was like, well, are you still a member of the Justice League? Like, is this one of those like when a couple has a fight and they're like, we're broken up, but they're not really, and everyone knows it? Like, is this one of those?
Plus, it's too mushy for Batman. It's like, I had all these plans to neutralize you guys if anything ever went wrong, but my whole plan for neutralizing myself is I trust you guys. I know you'd stop me if I ever went crazy. It's inconsistent.
Yeah, it doesn't really work with.
A little inconsistent. A bit too much of a platitude, really, to just try to close out the movie on a high note. I think the problem is that thematically, it's not a movie that should have that happy of an ending.
No, well, that's why I said I think it should have ended 30 seconds earlier. I think it should have ended with Batman saying, if you don't understand why I had to do this, then I don't want to be a part of this group. And it should have ended there. Before we go, can we mention Cyborg and how superfluous and pointless he is in this movie?
That's a really good point. I don't know. I don't have as big of a problem as you do with him being superfluous. My bigger problem was just that he seems to be around, and it doesn't seem to be that unusual that he's around, and Batman comes right out and says that because he's not a member of the Justice League, he didn't have a plan for him. And I feel like Batman has
a plan for every superhuman on Earth.
Yeah, he really ought to. I don't buy that it's like, if you're a member of the Justice League, I have to have a plan to neutralize you if you ever go crazy. But there's like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 super beings on the planet, and I'm not going to come up with anything for the rest of those guys.
No wonder Bane was able to punk him. He didn't have a plan for Bane.
You didn't have a plan for Bane.
He wasn't part of the Justice League. He wasn't ready to take him down.
I just think that's a little strange, where it's like, because you're a member of this team, like you're more of a priority for me. It seems to me like, wouldn't Batman's priorities more be the more powerful that you are, the more I need a plan for you?
Yeah, well, Cyborg's part of the Justice League now. And this is something they've been trying to do. This is in the comics.
In the comics, yeah.
And this is something they've been pushing for and trying to do for a long time, and I just don't get it.
Never understood, ever.
But I don't get why Cyborg. Like if
over other people, like Firestorm. I don't get it.
Why not Beast Boy? Why not anybody else? Like, what is it about Cyborg? And it's this weird, like, corporate vision. It's not like one guy really likes the character. There is this weird, we are going to shove him in the Justice League, and it's going to fit.
And outside of Teen Titans, is anybody like a giant Cyborg fan? Like, I'm just throwing that out there. It's what's that?
I said apparently DC.
Yeah, but I just mean like fans. Like, I've never heard anybody go, "Oh man, I sure love Cyborg." I've heard people like certain things in stories in Teen Titans about Cyborg, but just like Cyborg, I don't know.
Actually, I've never heard anyone say anything like I've heard people say that about Beast Boy and Starfire and Raven. I have never heard anyone say that about Cyborg. I just don't understand it. I don't understand why we're pushing for him to be part of the Justice League, to be a heavy hitter, to be, you know, I don't get that. And this movie feels like it's like almost propaganda to further that. No, Cyborg is part of the Justice League. Look, he's in the animated movie. Would we put him in the animated movie if he wasn't a major part of the Justice League? But I think that's really all I have to say on the movie.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, are we recommending it? I mean, I think it's fun. I just think it could have been better.
I would recommend watching it before you watch this review, because then you won't think about the fact that the plans don't make sense, and you'll enjoy the movie, and you'll think we're crazy.
Well, that's a good point too. We did kind of spoil everything, and we didn't really do a synopsis at the beginning. So clearly, this is more for the people who. Sorry, but clearly this is for people who have already seen it. But yeah, like I said, you know, it was fun. But yeah, I hate it when I have to say, turn your brain off, because I don't like to tell anybody to ever do that.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
I think that's bad.
It's not even turn your brain off. It's just. There's a giant gaping plot hole.
Enjoy the spectacle. It's not going to make sense, but yeah.
It's fun, and the thing is, outside of those plot points, it's well written. There's a lot of good dialogue. There's a lot of good banter and
character interactions are great, and there are places where the threats definitely seem real.
Yeah.
On their own. The Flash thing bugged me for a minute in a good way.
Great.
That was scary. I was like, when he says it went right through your wrist, I was like, finally, we're using this PG-13 thing for what it's for, you know? I guess I'm saying finally. I've said that every time for the last 3 movies. They've been doing that better and better. But I just mean like that's what that's for. You can't get away with that on Saturday morning cartoons.
Well, when he goes, "What's in the box?" and he goes, "A dead grandmother," and he it off, and there's an old woman there, I was like, oh, he's not joking. I'm not sure whether that would be funny to begin with, but he's not joking.
Yeah. I know you have a twisted sense of humor, Eric, but that's not funny.
But I thought that there was a lot of stuff in here that I thought they were able to do things that weren't like the Wonder Woman movie where they're like, look, we're PG-13, we cut off this guy's head. They did things that were subtle, like the thing through his wrist, where he's like, that went through your wrist. There's no getting it off. I liked that. I thought, the thing is, I like the character interactions, and I like the tone of the movie. It's just, there's details that are annoying. It's a fun movie, and it's enjoyable. It's just, it's a very flawed movie, if that makes any sense.
No, I agree with you, 100%. Well, everybody, thanks for listening to us. Wow, I'm tired. Thanks for listening to us review Justice League Doom, and hopefully Eric and I will be back to review something else for you in less than 5 or 6 months. Than the next time they do one of these.
When Superman vs. the Elite comes out.
But Eric, do you have better access now? Like, are we going to be able to do something again sooner?
Well, since I still don't technically have internet, but my apartment complex has a clubhouse that has internet, which is what I'm using right now. So I can at least get together and do things. I could also probably record stuff and then come here and upload it. So I might have more stuff coming. I'm not promising anything just yet, but it will definitely be a lot easier to do things with other people, at least for now.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Eric, for being on. Thanks, everybody, for listening. See you later.
All right, bye.